Okay, guys, so 75 years ago today, Action Comics #1 is published, and the biggest icon in comic books is born. I have to remark, I actually think the writing surprisingly holds up really well today, in that I actually found the dialogue very, very natural, spontaneous. And if it were to be remade into like a movie today, I would actually keep most of it. I think it was actually pretty good. What did you think, Mike?
I think it's not just the dialogue, but I think it's the themes that Siegel has explored with this book. I mean, it's social justice, you know? I mean, the idea of someone doing what they can to help someone else out who is disadvantaged, maybe poor, immigrants, people who are being taken advantage of. He's exploring those themes with the book, and I think that's what really hits home with people on an emotional level, because we look around ourselves even today and we see people who their homes are being foreclosed. I mean, when I was a kid, you only read about that stuff in old comics and old movies, but now it's like happening.
Yeah.
And the idea of women who are beat up by their husbands, I mean, that stuff still goes on, and here's somebody who can stand up to that and make a difference.
So, Kevin, when this came out, what's the reason you think it hit so hard with the public?
Well, I think, you're looking at the Depression, ending of the Great Depression. You also have a madman over in Germany at that time. You're getting, there's a lot going on where they needed someone, a hero or a savior or whatever you want to call that person. And I think for a lot of people, I think we'd love to have those powers back then. I think people would love to have leaped away or flown away or had the strength to deal with those types of issues. So that's what Superman portrayed. It was that inner things that we would like to have. And so I think it kind of jumped out for them, and it just so new and fresh and different. But it was touching, as we said, on concepts that, again, people could relate to it. They wanted to have that fantasy, that solution, and I think maybe Superman was that for them.
So we're talking about Action Comics #1, and I want to talk about the art specifically. Sure. And the original. It's hard to judge the original art, right? Because it's so timeless. But you know what I mean? Like it fills that era. That reminds me, like, that's one of the first thoughts of Superman I've ever had. I mean, does it hold up today? Did you guys like it?
I think it has a lot of energy to it. I think it's crude, but you can see the movement. You can see the characters, the expressions on their faces. There's a lot of fear in there. There's a lot of suspense, but it's real crude. But it does have that energy.
Yeah, a little melodramatic, but I think that fits it.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. There's energy in every panel. It keeps moving, and I think, he wasn't probably the top artist of that time period, but, he definitely had a good idea with the layouts and keeping it fluid. So I think it was great that way. And yeah, it's energy for sure. There's definitely energy in it.
Superman is not as popular today as he was back in the 40s. Batman is more popular. But I think one reason is because what's been lost is this character, this champion of the oppressed who fought for social justice. Like, even in this first issue, it's such a simple thing: beating up a wife beater, saving an innocent person from execution, then the political corruption in the third story. And these are really simple concepts. And over the years, Superman, granted, I love the 1950s and 60s Superman, but he became more of like, he would be the guy that would be given the key to the city and have like his own holiday, Superman Day. Whereas back in those days, he was a vigilante. Mm-hmm. He was on the run from the cops. He was breaking the law, right? He was intimidating politicians.
They even called him the devil in the story.
Yes, you're right.
So even what is going on?
He was a terrorist for his times in many respects. Yeah. I mean, the authorities would look at a person like that who took justice into their own hands. I mean, what's the difference between that and a modern day terrorist? Not a whole lot. I mean, he was hurting people. Mm-hmm. I mean, he threw that wife beater against the wall.
Yep.
He's shaking a car upside down, and people are falling out of it, and they're breaking bones. I mean, it was rough, and I think that there's an evolution with the character in that he became more of a authority figure. He evolved over time, because how do you address that conflict between being a rebel who rights wrongs and there to fix things, but how do you deal with those who are in power and those who have authority? We can't have a bunch of Supermen walking around the streets and just taking justice into their own hands, because who's to say what's right and wrong?
And the times too, I mean, right after that, after a couple of years, World War II came up, was there, and people's interests were focusing not on the corporate corruption or the so-called what's going on in the country, but what was going on in the world. So yeah, he did. He started to evolve and change, and they changed Batman as well. They wanted to change the tone so he was a little bit more lighthearted and friendly, not so dark. I think there was a little bit of a fear there that, because of who it was focused on with children, that it could have this influence on them of heavy extreme violence and darkness. So yeah, they evolved, but over time we've changed again. We've evolved, and so the character has had the challenge of not evolving. So that's caused the issues there for him as well.